So, Tammy has a very good question about the current situation with police officers and how we got to where we are and those sorts of things. And tonight, at least, I don't have enough energy to go back through that one because I want that, but I want to. And so I'll be doing that soon. But I'm going to jump onto some other stuff in my next one. But I'll get back to you, Tammy. So don't give up on me. I'm coming back to there. One that I wanted to hit really quick. This is if you just popped into this one. I want to make a prediction because it's Monday, not Tuesday, and Tuesday we will know. And I want to have said this here on the record. See, I wish I had like a newspaper I could hold up and show you for sure that what day it is. And I'd show you my phone, and my phone will have the date on it here, but that's, see, it says Monday, November 1st, but that doesn't really make any difference because I could lie on that anyway, but I could make that happen. But anyway, I'm going to say it anyway. Virginia. So Virginia has a governor's race going on right now. There's one, it's interesting, there are two governor's races going on right now. One of them's Virginia, one of them's New Jersey. Virginia's gotten is getting lots of coverage. New Jersey's giving almost none. There's almost nobody's watching New Jersey. Why? Because nobody thinks New Jersey's up for grabs. Everybody believes New Jersey's going to stay with a Democrat. It would be shocking if they didn't. I'd be shocked too. I'm not making any prediction there other than I'd be shocked, blown away if a Democrat does not walk away handily in New Jersey. Interesting thing is the race in Virginia. Why do we care? We care for two reasons. One, governors are always have significant, governors have more influence over the politics nationally than people realize. In that the governors sign off on things like redistricting and things like that. So the administrations within the individual states is a bellwether for what's going on nationally in interesting ways. Remember, more of what affects your daily life is based on the state than most people realize. We talk about the federal all the time, but the state matters. But in this case, Virginia is an interesting one because Virginia has been very solidly Democrat, and it's definitely up for grabs right now, and it's up for grabs over potentially the biggest national issue going into next year is what's really brought it to the forefront, and that is what's going on in education. In multiple fronts. It's interesting. There's a single school district gone completely off the wall crazy in Virginia. The Loudoun County School District, just bonkers. They are as left-wing as any school district in the whole country, and they've managed to repeatedly become national news over all of the hot button tickets of the day. Like the most out there extreme positions on every single one of them. It's amazing that a school board. School boards are tiny local. They're not tiny, by the way. When we talk tiny, remember, there are school districts that have 1 million students in them. These are not tiny things. But what I mean is they're very, very local. They're city size. They're these sorts of things. And yet you've got a school board making national news on basically a daily basis. The interesting one is it has captured the moment of parents being pissed off in America that really came to a head last year during COVID and during students being taught from home, because it's something a lot of us had watched for quite a while, that the education system has gone, liberals are winning more there than almost any place else. It's a topic we really should talk about sometime if we look at Saul Alinsky and some of these guys who've been I think are the leading perpetrators of liberalism as we know it today. They formulated a plan to take over America ideologically. The education was one of their primary points of attack on America, and they have succeeded. Universities are wildly liberal. The education universities educate all the teachers of America. To get into education, you must go through their system, and thus today, education at all levels, teachers have become wildly liberal. It's one of the most liberal groups in America if you take teachers as a whole, and it happened in this very organized, purposeful way underneath everything, and it's been feeding on itself for years and years and years, to where education from preschool through the university system is the most liberal place in all of America. They accept nothing else. And it's driven, and for the most part, as long as your kids could read and write, nobody really cared, until it was getting out of control, and some of us have been yelling and waving and saying we should be paying attention to this, and nobody really noticed until for a year kids went to school online, and all of a sudden parents here and there all over the country found themselves in the background listening to their teachers talk to their kids, and went, whoa, what the hell are you teaching my kids? I was the kind of parent to my kids. My kids, one of the first things I remember at the beginning of school, every single year, hand me all the textbooks. On every single textbook that's been handed to you. Because I wanted to see what here in Ellensburg, Washington, in a rural community in the center of a state, what did they choose as a textbook to hand to my kids? And I was reasonably okay with how things went overall. But there were some places it was going way wrong. So, my son got pulled out of math, basically, in the school system because the school system went off the rails on it. And some of these things, we were seeing it. Today, it's all over the place when you start looking at issues like critical race theory and all of these sorts of things that are going on, which, again, discussions for another day. The interesting thing is it was put front and center when all of a sudden parents were attending school with their children. And teachers tried to stop that from happening, which was insane. They couldn't do it. And all of a sudden people started going, whoa, wait a second. And they started seeing things that were going on. And they got involved. So they started showing up at their school districts at the school board meetings and going, whoa, I'm mad about this. And the school boards were going, you can't talk. And we're not listening to you. And arrest that person. And crazy shit like that. Because they literally were trying to keep control as the whole world started to fall down around them. And Virginia has been the center of it all. Not alone, but very much the center of it. They apparently are completely clueless as actually seeing the writing on the wall of what's going on in front of them. And so because of that, they're in the news not once in a while. I'm 3,000 miles away, and I can probably find an article on that school board every day. I would have trouble finding an article on the Seattle school district every day, and it's 45 miles away as the crow flies. So it's interesting. Well, in the midst of all that, they had a governor's race going on. And the Democrat running used to be their governor. He's trying to become their governor again, non-consecutive terms. And he jumped both feet into the middle of this argument with a line where he said parents shouldn't be telling teachers what to teach. The greatest line a Democrat has said maybe in the last 10 years. It was an amazing line. He spilled out what he actually believes. It's the same thing. It ranks up there, maybe the last most important one. I would take that line and tie it right back to Hillary Clinton saying it takes a village to raise your children. This concept that Hillary Clinton was tipping the hand to the idea that they're not your kids, they're our kids. We all get to raise them. And the problem is we don't believe that. Not conservatives certainly don't believe it. Republicans don't believe it. But you know what? Almost nobody believes that. The number of people believe that is this very tiny minority of mostly people who don't have kids. People who have kids understand from an innate, it comes from every one of the cells in your body. You are responsible at the highest level for this human being you created. and you are ultimately responsible for it. When your kids grow up and have a difficult time of life, it's their parents they're pissed off at, not their school board, not it's their parents. Why? Because they know innately who's responsible for this chaos. And so you have this going on, and he jumps in and says, no, I don't think parents should be telling teachers what to teach. And yes, they should. So I'm predicting right now that the Republican is going to win in Virginia, and he's going to win big. Right now, the polls have shifted entirely to the Republican ahead within the margin of error. So like 3 percentage points, which is always funny how they know exactly what their margin of error is. But it's interesting because there are multiple things that again, another thing we should talk about is polls at some point. But Democrats are always in the current environment, because of where polls are taken and how they're taken. Democrats are always overrepresented in polls. So the numbers always skew towards Democrats and away from Republicans all the time. And because of that, I think the margin is bigger than it seems. The other thing that the pollsters had just refused to come to understand, even though it gets demonstrated to them over and over again, is conservatives and Republicans, people right of center, don't like pollsters at all. So we, and I'm claiming it myself, we lie to pollsters like we might be people who have morality, comes from the Bible and everything. We do not believe lying to pollsters is a sin. We believe the pollsters are trying to deceive the American public. They're trying to twist what is said and word it in such a way to go against us. And because we believe that as an entire group, we lie to pollsters in large amounts, like enough to swing multiple percentage points. And so a good percentage of the Republicans polled are going to say they're Democrats, or they're going to say they're Republicans, and they're going to say they're voting for the other side. We do it all the time. It's just, and the funny thing is that pollsters refuse to listen. They refuse to pay attention as to why they keep getting it wrong, and they keep getting it wrong in large amounts. But they keep getting it wrong largely in the same direction. So that just cracks me up. And so right now, I could be entirely wrong. I am predicting the future, and I'm predicting the future from 3,000 miles away in a state I have only visited a handful of times in my whole life. But my reading of the situation is the Democrat is going to get destroyed there. It's going to be a Republican landslide, which, by the way, winning by 5 points would be a landslide for a Republican currently in that state. I think he's going to win. And I think it is going to scare the hell out of the Democrats. Because I'm telling you, if it's even close, the Democrats are going to be scared, because what that tells you is if it's even close in a strongly Democrat-held state, then the Democrats are in big trouble for the midterm elections next year. And they know it. That's why there has been more money poured into this state than it might be one of the most expensive governor races in history when they get all told of how much money was spent. But it's because they so many people think that whatever happens here says a lot about going forward. I'll tell you, I'm going to hedge my bet. Even if the Republican loses, if it's close, if you watch CNN, if you watch any of the news, you're going to hear somebody say the Democrats should be scared because they should have won this hands down. And there's no way the Democrats win this hands down. No way. That is not going to happen. I will eat a napkin at the next video if that happens. No, I won't. I'm lying. But what I'm saying is that I feel very confident it's going to be close, or the only way there's a landslide is if it's a Republican side. I just believe it completely. And I will be watching tomorrow to see what happens. I don't normally like to make these predictions because I can look like an idiot, but I can always just not post this. But the interesting thing is that I just feel that, and I think it's going to be very interesting. Normally, we shouldn't care. It shouldn't matter to any of the rest of us. But in this case, everybody wants this one to matter.